Hey everyone, so I was kind of thinking of creating a tic tac toe game inside of Spline and thinking around the logic that we can implement in Spline. Before we get started, just wanted to let you know that this is not a tutorial, but this is more of my thought process, how I kind of go around thinking about the logic and then implementing it in Spline. So there would be no step by step guide here. I would be just exploring how I can implement things and then changing here and there, testing with trial and error using the play mode. So yeah, just keep that in mind in case you are going to try this out. So if you know about this game, it's a game played between 3 by 3 grid by two players. Each take their turn to mark X and O inside of the boxes. So say if I mark X here, another player would mark O anywhere in the remaining boxes, and then the players would do so until they try to win the game. So in this case, you can see the O player wins here. So whenever there are boxes consecutively placed, so if they capture the boxes in a row, say first row, second row, third row, or the columns, or even diagonally, the player wins the game. So how we can create this game inside of Spline? So in Spline, I think we would need to have a alternating logic for the player first. So there would be only one member, like the scene would be open in the web page. We have to think of a logic so that the player take turns. So in this case, I think we can make use of a boolean variable here, so that if it's false, it can be assigned to a one player. If it's set to true, another player could be that. So using mouse down event, we can trigger some logics and also conditional logic action here, so that if boolean is false, we can set a variable for this player to be 0 or 1. Say if the boolean is false, the variable would be 0, and if it's true, the variable would be 1. 0 could be as X, 1 could be the O. So this way we can create a logic where two players can play with a single input using mouse down, boolean, and so on. Coming to the game logic here, let me just create a 3 by 3 grid here. So these could be our variables inside of Spline. So 9 variables in a sense. Initially these variables can contain the value as 2 because we would be working with 0 and 1 for X and O. X is 0, O is 1. So as we are using mouse element, it would be each box in this case. So we have a game just like before, in this case like this. So the O player has won here. This game could be shown as 0 is 1, nothing is 2 because the initial value is 2, X is 0. Similarly 0, 2, 1, 2 and 0. So we can see there is a column being occupied by 1 and so on. So every time we have a equal value on either of the box, like the rows or columns, we can define that that is a winner. So just to show you here, it needs to be 0 equals 1 equal 2, 3 equal 4 equal 5, 6 equal 7 equal 8. This would be our horizontal wins, right? And then we would have 0 equals 3 equals 6, 1 equal 4 equals 7, 2 equal 5 equal 8. This would be our vertical wins. And then we also have the diagonal. So 0 equal 4 equal 8, and then 2 equal 4 equal 6. So this would be our diagonal win. So basically we have to create these many logics. How we can define the winner is basically taking the value we have inside of this winning conditions. If it's 0, it would be our X player. If it's 1, it would be our O player. And then we can just use our animations and states an event to trigger the winner, and that should be it. Let's see how we can do this in Spline now. So I have created a new file here. Let me just rename this to Tic Tac Toe game. We can use the rectangle for our initial box just to implement the logic. And you can see when you click escape or we are selecting nothing, we can see the global properties in the scene. And if we scroll down, we can see the variables and data panel. So we have to create variables here. So we have a variable, because we are working with numbers only, we can use the number variables. So this would be our player, and then we have to also create a boolean, because based on the boolean we are setting up the player, like alternating the turns. Let's just keep it boolean. And then we also need to have 9 variables, namely number. Let's make use of numbers so that we are not confused. And 0, so these are our numbers. And also we have to keep it as 2, should have done that first. And then we have these values. Let's make use of cloner, so we can have a grid, 3 by 3 grid on x and y. We don't want on z. Maybe we can convert this into instance, hide the main component. We have all the clones here. Just quickly setting up this position, option R to reset the camera here. Let me hide this one. Let's work with actually the component itself, and then just add a mouse down event here. And then we need to have every logic in this only. We'll also set up few text items, or like elements. Let's say this is for our boolean. It is either true or false. Let's change the value here. And then we have, oops, you can duplicate that, and then change the variable to be our player, which is 0. 0 in the sense it's x, 1 in the sense it's o. So let me set this up. Oh, I missed this one. It should be 2 as well.
So duplicate, then duplicate. And let's use align x center and then distribute 15 values. Yep. And just duplicate this down, right? Then again have it down.
So this is our 0 and 0. This would be our n1. So this is just for debugging purpose, so that we are able to see the logic and how it's working. Okay, let's implement the player logic first. So just take the mouse down event, and then we will use conditional and say if the boolean is double equals false, right, then set variable for the player to be 0, right, else I can set player variable to be 1. And also we have to make sure we change the boolean here as well. So another variable to change the boolean parameter, we have to change the order of the actions here, so that they are implemented in top to down order. So first this would be executed, and then again this would be executed. So let's just try to do this. So if I let's so we can see the boolean is false and the player is set to be, maybe I will change the player initially to be 2 as well for reference. So you can see false 2, and if I click on this, you can see the boolean has not changed to true. We have to change that to true, but the variable has changed to 1. Let's just see what is the issue here. Okay, we haven't set the value properly, so this should work now. So you can see true and false, else 1, and we haven't changed the boolean again here, so we have to add another set variable to change the boolean to be false. We have to change the order again here. So you can see we are now able to do the player logic. So whenever it's false, we would change the value to true, and so on. Now what we have to do is create some conditional logics. So you can see here we have this clone instance. I'll just ungroup those things. Here you can see we have the player logic, which we are implementing. So, and we can actually just keep additional set variable. Actually, we cannot keep from cloner, we have to do from component itself. So we have to add another set variable action. Let me just track it down so it's in the order. Now we have to select some variable because we would be only changing this again. We have to set this to 1 because these values are 2. We have to set, actually not to 1, to be player value here, because we are actually changing this to be based on the value of the player. So if X member clicks on this, it would be changed to 0, else it would be changed to 1. So similar to that here as well. Let's just select N0 for now and then select it to be player. You can drag this down so it is in the order of execution, and let's just go here, and now we can select from this to be whatever we want. So N0 is basic for us, whatever we have selected. For this one it should be N2, actually N1. So let's just select that, N1. This would be, so yeah, I've set up the variables for each instances. So let's just test this out quickly. So you can see false 2, and this is our like debug thing. So if I click here, you can see X value, and then it should be O player's turn, so the next number should be 1. So let's say I do it 1, again X, again 1, was planning O, and then 1. You can see we have a value here, and then O has literally won the game, but we don't have any event set up to show that O has won the game, so we have to create another logic for that. So let's just do that right now. Okay, to create the winning conditions, maybe I will use another object just to contain the events. So let's just say this rectangle, and we can add a variable change event here targeting the player, because every time we are selecting a box we are changing the player value, and in turn checking this value, so that when a row or column or diagonals are equal, we can then define whoever the winner is. So we have this player, and then we will be adding conditional logic here. So as I have said previously that we need to check for these rows or columns. Let's go for the first row. So in this case it would be 0, 1 and 2. So let's just add that here. So our values would be n0 double equals n1 double equals n2. So this is the condition, like when these three values are equal, then only these actions would be triggered. So we have two values here actually, so the player X and player O. We have to define who wins the game. So maybe I will just create two simple transitions here. This is for X, this is for O, and then we can just define a color for this for the moment. We can later change whatever we want. So just for reference. So if the O wins, this animation would be triggered, else this would be triggered. If the X wins, it would be green. And so we have to check this value, right? This is the first condition, so let's just add a transition here. If all of these are equal, we have to trigger the value of rectangle 3. Rectangle 3 is our X player, rectangle 4 is O player, right? So just going back again here, so you can see X player base to state, and no need to add anything in the else because we would be only working with the conditional. So yeah, just try to check this one. First is X, and then we would be adding this one. Our O would be here, 1, and then O. Do we need another variable? Okay, that's not working actually. Do we have the setup correct? X to state, we have a state, right? player condition if n double equals 1 e double equals 0. Actually this should be a bit different in here, and n1 double equals n2. Let's try with this one. So 0 0 0, right? You can see this works fine. So we have a logic there. So n2 equals n1, and then again n1 should be equal to n2, so that way all these three are equal. Then we are triggering this value. Similar to this, let's just create another conditional logic here. Say for the second row should be n3 equals n4, and uh, n4 equals n5, right? So this way, let's just say we are taking the O player here for reference. So let's just do this one, like, oops, why is it so? Actually, all of these are equal, right? So it kind of goes there. Maybe the better way here is to not keep all the values as 2. So thinking around the logic, it's makes sense to just go with 0 1 2 again. So actually we will skip 1 and 0 and 1. So let's just go with 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and then again we have left over with 1. Not all values are same, I guess. So yeah, this should work actually. So this should be how. No, the x value has 1 again, 0 value has also 1, like the O player. And we can continue to work with this. We actually want to not have this happen, but we can check this later. But that's how the conditional can be applied here. So let me just go around and create all of this, set up the logic for all of these, and get back to you.
So this is our first row, second row, third row. First column, second column, third column. Left right diagonal and right left diagonal.
So in this we can add our events. So whenever we win, we can add the event here. We have to set up X and O because we got the logic right here. We have to make sure that whenever we click the box, there should be an X and O shown. So for that we would be using states and event again. Let us just create an X using the vector tool. So yeah, almost in the center, I guess. Eyeballing works. So we have got the X here. For O we can just use a ellipse, give it some ring value so it's more appropriate. Reduce this size actually. So we have our X, we have our O. Let me convert this into a component. Actually no, we can simply move this inside of our rectangle box because that's where we have all the events and all. So where is it? It's here. Let me just drag both of these down. You can see it kind of duplicated there. So you can see we have our X and O. What we need is whenever we have a player click on this box, we have to show X or O. So we can actually make this one 3D and maybe extrude. So for state, I can do this. For this one, I can also do this. It's almost the same size. So base state would be back of the rectangle, state would be in front of the rectangle. So in this way, when we add a transition here, we can add the transition based on the player. So we can add it inside of the conditional we have already. So let's say this is for the X player. So let's just add a transition action, move it to down at the bottom. Maybe we can add a name again here, X player, O player, and actually we will delete this because we know it's working fine now. So transition, repeat each time. Actually once is enough because we don't want it to happen twice. Base state, we have to select the X player here, base state to state, and that should do. And then again here as well, the transition action, we have to select the O player, once is enough, base state to state. And this should in theory make it come up, right? You can see who is winning, and it's a draw. Oh no, it's actually X player won the game. Let me actually change the duration here so it's quick. 0.2 and again 0.2. Also just take this down. So X O X O X O, and O won the game. So you can see O won the game, but we don't know how, or like the UI doesn't say so. So we can use this variable change event and just use here. Maybe I will try to add another variable, say a string variable, perhaps winner. Who is the winner? And this can be updated based on this. So let me just add set variable winner is the player, but this would actually make things go bad. uh, Duplicate, let me just add this winner. So 0 0 is not the winner. So let me just think about this. uh, who is the winner, we have to define that, but before that we also need to have a number variable because we are converting number to text or string. So let's just say this is the win guy, win win player, win set to 2 for reference because we don't want 0 or 1 to be there just in case. So yeah, in this variable change we can actually add the win player to be player. Set variable win player to be player. I will just do this and get back to you soon. So I have added those things here. So what is actually happening is, let me just change this one here. We need to have win player, right? So whenever a player wins, that player should be shown here. So you can see when we do that, next player won consecutive. So in this case, let me just move it there and actually make it small. Duplicate that one. So yeah, this is our win player and this is our text. So what we need to do is we can have another variable change. So we know that when these are getting true, this variable is set. So win player is changing. So we can again use a variable change here on the win player and then set the variable for the win player to be, actually there should be a conditional logic here because there are two players. So condition, if win double equals 0, then set variable for the winner is X player, right? 0 is X, else set variable for winner is O player. So this should in theory do our trick. So yeah, let's test this. X O X X O O X. Winner is X player, and this should not actually happen. That is something to think of later, but still, basic thing is working. Okay, so I was able to understand what is happening here. It's not an issue, but a conditional, like a logic error, I guess. So we have set the conditions. So whenever we have three boxes equal, we would be setting the win player. So as soon as we hit the first win, because we are setting this player to win, and it's just to show you here, it should be OX. So until then, you can see the winner is not shown, but as soon as we hit the first uh, condition to be true, we know that these three are equal now. So whenever these three are equal, the win player would be activated, like changed. So even if we click on this, all things are changing. So we have to make sure that whenever the first condition is true, the other should not be there. Was kind of thinking of this logic, how to rectify, and maybe let's just test this out. Okay, let's just change the logic as a whole. Instead of setting the value to be 0 or 1, we can keep it as, initially we have player as 0, right? So player plus player, I guess, player plus player minus 1 here, and then in this case player plus 1. So this will still give us what we have. So let me just change this to, let me bring this up again. We will delete this check, we don't need it. Let's keep the player as 0 again here, because we don't have any values here. So whenever we click, it should go, oh, it's going -1. So there is a logic error again. Let's just go here. Let's do +1 and -1. Would that work? O X O X O X O X. So is it working fine? We don't want this to continue happening. So what we can do is, whenever the winner is selected, we can just make the winner to be X is winner here. Just write it again. Else winner O is winner here. Now in this condition, what we can do is add a set variable again, and just change the player value to be 10, right? Because this way the player value would not change again. So basically we are halting the player to stop working. Set player value, let me just test this again. So X O X X O X X O X, it's a draw. Shit. So X O X O X. Oh, we wrote it wrong. If it's 0, it should be alright. We have a condition as well here, right? Merge down condition. If boolean is false, we set the value to, sorry, there should be 0 here in this case, but we are setting it as 1. So player, maybe we can keep the initial value of the player as 1 instead, so that we are able to change this to be -1, so it's 0, and this would be our +1, and then everything should be back to normal. Let's just check again. X O X O X. X, it's not changing still though. Let's try with O O O O. O is the winner. Then where is the X? Okay, let's just test this another theory as well. instead of adding the player value here. Let me just see if this works actually. Right, see, you can see X is working. The only issue is caused by the set variable we have. Maybe let's just do this as well just to test this out. We will change the transition, right? So whenever that happens with variable change, when there is a change in variable, we will make a transition happen for this rectangle 3 base to state. It's that rectangle 3 only, right? Yep. So this will be there, and when that happens, so let's just use state change event for this rectangle. Then we will set variable for the player to be 10. Let's see if this works or not. X O X O X. X is the winner, O is the winner. And then when it's again happening, acha, because we have a else state here, that's why it's taking as O. In that case, let's copy and paste this one so that this should actually help in that case. No need to have this as well. Let me just test this. Add this one and then set variable just to get the order here. Player to be 10. XOXOX. Oh, yep, that's working fine. Cool, we got around this one. Now the other thing to, oops, why is the O winner here? Double equals winner is X. We have 2 times X. Why is it so? Let's make this O, right? That's just a logic error, I guess. So O, O is the winner. You can see O is the winner, and again X is the winner. Cool. So basically, our game is ready, also functional. We just need to tidy it up and make it pretty. So this is how the game turned out to be. Thanks for watching, guys. I have the remix link in the description as well as in the Spline community if you want to check it out. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe the video. And thank you again. See you around. Bye bye.